Thank you guys very much for joining us today. This is a question and answer type of situation to give you some information about general immigration law. If you guys find this of any interest, please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get up-to-date information about us and about immigration as we continue to update this on a weekly basis. My name is Christopher Terrell. I'm the attorney for Terrell Law. You can find information about us on our website at www.tntvisa.com. If you ever have any questions, you can put them in the comments below or email us directly at info@tntvisa.com. You can also reach out to us through a messenger or WhatsApp at 754-610-7266. So thank you guys very much for joining. We do have some people here. Please feel free to ask me any questions that you guys may have regarding any immigration matters. As you know, we focus primarily on investors to the United States, but we do a lot of different immigration. So if you guys have a question, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to assist you in any way I can. Don't be shy. Need someone to kick it off.
Nora had a first question. Nora, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, my question was just to let you know that I am from Nicaragua, and I was curious whether Nicaragua was a part of that treaty with the U.S.
Okay, so what Nora is questioning is about the investor visa. And the investor visa is something that people with nationality of a set country are able to seek an investor visa with the United States. You have to have a treaty of trade or commerce with the United States. If it's trade, it's known as an E1 visa. If it's commerce, it's known as an E2 visa. And as Nora is asking, there are countries that do not have that necessary treaty to do the investor visa. And unfortunately, Nicaragua is one of those countries that does not have a treaty with the United States. Now, does that mean that you cannot come to the United States as an entrepreneur? No, it just means that there needs to be another avenue for us to do that. And so, some of the avenues that we can check is whether or not you have your own company in Nicaragua, or if the company that you're currently working for in Nicaragua could invest with you into the United States. So if the company that you work for invests 50% into a company that you invest into, that might be an avenue for you to move forward. There's also something that very few immigration attorneys work with or know about, which is called the International Entrepreneur Parole. Now, that is not a visa. What that does is it allows you to come into the United States for up to 5 years to actually work for a business that you're investing into. The difference between this and the investor visa is the fact that with the investor visa, you need to own approximately 50% of the business. Here, you only need to own 10% of the business, but you have to have qualified US investors who have invested at least $250,000 into the business for you to be able to do the entrepreneurial parole. Your investment is only for 10%. You have to be involved in the management of the company, but your spouse and your children will also be able to get this, and your spouse can seek a work permit that will allow him or her to work anywhere they want in the United States. So it has some of the same benefits as the investor visa, but not the same types of benefits because it's only valid for 5 years. But it is an option for Nicaraguan citizens, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
By the way, what kind of business you can invest with this international parole?
It can be in any type of business. It doesn't have to be as long as it's a for-profit business. Okay. Now there are some caveats to the international entrepreneur parole. First of all, it's only valid. As I said, it's valid for 5 years, but it goes into 30-month increments. So it's 2.5 years, 2.5 years. You have to create jobs within that first 2.5 years, but your investment amount can actually drop down from 10% to 5%. You can have 3 total investors into the same project. and you don't have to create like 10 jobs for each investor. It's just like 10 jobs total within that first 2.5 years. But the investment from the US does jump up based on the international parole. So when you're applying 2.5 years later, you can, the investment has to go to, I think, 350,000 to 500,000. I don't recall off the top of my head, from the US investors. The other important thing is, once you've done you can actually, during that 5 years, sell back all of your shares, so that during the final year, you own 1%. When the 5 years is up, you own nothing. So basically, you're like leasing out a way to come into the United States. You have to start off with 10, but when the 5 years is up, you can have 0. And then you can take the money and go into another, you can do the entrepreneurial parole again, but this time you're doing it in a different company.
Okay, I have 2 questions. First one is, so for the qualification on that parole,
Entrepreneurial, yeah.
entrepreneurial, yeah. Okay. Does the company has to produce more than $200,000? That's revenue or after taxes? And then the second question I'm gonna ask you after you respond this. Hey.
Okay.
We want to see.
Okay, so the first question is, when you first invest when somebody invests into the company in the beginning, okay, it doesn't have to have any income. But when you're doing the renewal, you do have to show income or job creation or both. And I believe that when you're doing the renewal, you have to show $500,000 in gross sales, or you show the 10 jobs. Okay, but when you're doing the initial one, you don't have to show any income. It's when you're doing the renewal, which would be 2.5 years after you got the first one. Okay.
Okay, and then and actually this question is correlated to that. And what about, let's say, like the revenue per se didn't reach out to that amount, but we actually acquire an asset, and the asset surpass, let's say, $500,000. Will that also could be considered?
I think, George, that the reason that you're asking this question has to do with people trying to use this to invest into real estate. If that's what I can read through this. And I don't think that there's going to be any issue with people investing into real estate. The issue is going to be with the job creation aspect of it. So I think that if you're doing flipping houses and things like that, and you have foreign investors that are investing into the company, and you have qualified US investors also investing into the company to flip houses and do things like that, there is going to be a possibility, regardless of what the situation is, within 2.5 years, that you're going to be able to extend for an additional 2.5 years. And remember, the main thing and the benefit for you with real estate is the fact that they have 10% in the beginning. 2.5 years later, they only have to have 5%. So they can actually shut down and sell parts of their investment into that capital group and have the money already back into their account, which minimizes their risk. Okay.
Got a question, Christopher.
Yes, Alejandro.
Yes, I'm just, I'm in Argentina, so all of my clients and potential customers as well are concerned about if they're eligible to apply for investor visas in Argentina. Are Argentinians qualified or eligible to apply? And my second question is about the amount of money that they need to possess in order to invest. So how much money do they need to have in order to invest in the US and to apply for that visa?
Okay, well, those are excellent questions. And the first one I'd have to say, Alejandro, is everybody who is an Argentinian national is eligible for either the investor visa, the E2 visa, or the treaty trader visa, which is the E1 visa. Okay. Now, I'm going to go to the E1 visa because you don't typically do the E1 visa. But when I first started immigration law, one of the first cases I worked on was in treaty trader visa with an Argentinian client. And he had been in the United States since about 2001. He'd already been there, I think, and what they were trading was information from Argentina to the United States. They were actually trading the advertising information from Argentina to the United States so that they could then sell that to companies in the United States who were then creating advertising campaigns for their products in Argentina. So let's say like McDonald's, okay? What are people doing in McDonald's? They would then get the information on what Argentinians were looking at through marketing things, sell it to McDonald's, and McDonald's would create a new advertising campaign specifically for Argentina based on that information. And we did a E1 treaty trader for them. So when you're talking about trade, and that's what I want to make clear, it does not necessarily have to be like goods and services. It can be your trading information. Now, for the investor visa, the E2 visa, that's strictly an investment into the United States. The regulations do not have a set number. There is nothing in the regulations that say if you invest 100,000, 150,000, you're guaranteed to get this visa. What it's going to be dependent upon is the type of business that you're investing into. So if you're creating a new business, you have to invest the money into to build up the business and make it operational. And what they're going to want to see for operations is money coming in. And they're going to want to see money coming in for at least 2 months with the possibility of showing that you're going to be able to grow this company in the next 5 years. Now, if the company only requires you to put in $60,000 to make it operational, you can make the argument that that's all that's needed, okay? The other thing is if you're buying an existing business, whatever that existing business is being sold for, that's what your investment needs to be. And you probably want to put some additional money into that. So if you're buying a business that's worth $125,000, you need to invest that full $125,000 and probably invest a little bit more to show your good faith into that business, to keep it operational and to make it the way that you're running. The last thing I do want to caution about all of this, every embassy treats the investor visa differently. Okay, so depending upon where you're filing will determine, your chance of success. And unfortunately, with the last administration, President Trump, getting an investor visa in Argentina started to get more difficult. And they were looking at more investment, higher investment than you would have to invest in other companies. Now, that doesn't mean that Argentinians can't do the investor visa. It just mean that instead of applying for the visa at the embassy, they may want to come into the United States as a tourist and then seek to change from a tourist status to the investor visa status. But this is all fluid. Everything is constantly changing in immigration. Everything is constantly changing with the embassies and things like that. And unfortunately, right now we're talking about COVID situation. The best chance for right now for Argentinians is to come to the United States and do a change of status, because you're not going to be able to get an employment at the embassy anytime soon to do the investor visa and get it in your passport. And that's more of a pandemic issue than it is anything else.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anyone
Hello,
else?
everyone. This is David, Arzumanian. before I ask my question, I just want to follow up on the answer you just gave about the applying to change of status in the US instead of the embassy. When you do that, then eventually you still want to go back, and then you still need visa and a passport. So when you go to the embassy for the interview, if you already have received your e-visa in the United States, does that make your interview easier or not?
That's a very good question. And what I would say to you, David, is the fact that, again, it's going to depend on the embassy. Now, typically, when you're doing like these types of visas, you're applying first in the United States, and then you apply for the visa in your passport. So let's say that you're doing I'm going to say an extraordinary ability visa, an O1 visa. In order to get the O1 visa, you have to apply first in immigration in the US. They approve it, and then they send everything down to the embassy for them to put the visa in your passport. The investor visa is similar to the student visa and the tourist visa in that you do not have to go through immigration in the United States first. You can go directly to the embassy and apply for those visas in the embassy without having immigration in the US approve anything. So because of that, the investor visa, having it approved in the US is not going to guarantee that the embassy is going to issue you the investor visa. What it does do is it makes it a stronger argument for the attorney to say, hey, this has already been reviewed and approved. This is what the situation was back when it was approved by immigration in the US. Here's the situation now. The situation is better, and you would hope that it would be better because they in the US are actually building the business and developing the business. You should give them the visa because the situation has gotten better. So you're going to be able to make a stronger argument for it, but you can't guarantee success because only the embassy makes its own decision.
Got it.
Okay.
Now, my question is this. I have recently interviewed 2 clients for us, and both of them, wealthy individuals, came multiple times with their families to United States as a tourists. And now both of them have been rejected to enter United States because their activity does not match with tourist visa. So I don't have any details about why exactly they have been denied to enter United States. But my question to you based on this is, can you give us a couple of examples based on your practice over the years of potential investors, wealthy individuals who came here as a tourists, did something that they should not have done as a tourist and now need waiver, or maybe even help them with waiver. So to divide this in 2 separate questions, first is what people should not do as a tourist in the United States so they don't jeopardize their immigration relationship with United States. And question number 2, if they already have made a mistake and they've been denied for a visa or they've been turned back at the airport, how the waiver works, how can they come back now?
Okay, so first of all, each case is different and you have to look at the situation of each case to determine the best strategy for it. So based on what you've told me, I mean, there's going to need to be more information gathered from those potential clients to determine the best step. Based on what I've gotten, my guess is that they didn't do anything illegal or anything wrong in the US. What they did is they had a pattern of travel in the US that suggested to the officer that they were not trying to temporarily be in the US, but permanently in the US. So basically, one of the things that you're stating whenever you come in under a tourist visa is that you're coming here temporarily, that you're only going to be here for a couple of months, at the most 6 months. And if they see a pattern where you've come in for 5 months, left for 2 weeks, come back in for 5 months, left for 2 weeks, come back in, they're going to look at that and say, wait a second, you're not coming to temporarily be here, you're coming to permanently be here. And if they ever feel that you're coming to permanently be here, they will deny you from entering the US. So what I would caution is anybody who is traveling back and forth under a tourist visa, if you've been doing it a lot, speak to an immigration attorney, speak to us, let us look at your past travel history, let us look at what your plans are, because you don't ever want to be in a situation where you're denied access or entry into the US. And we have worked with clients plenty of times in the past to go through what their travel history is and have told people, listen, I know you want to come back 2 weeks from now, but you're going to need to be out of the country for at least 2 to 3 months before you can even seek anything coming back in. And that's just based on your travel history. That's based on your time that you've already been in the US. So that's one aspect. The next aspect I want to say is that under the tourist visa, there are a variety of things that you can do. So first of all, you can invest in the US under the tourist visa. You can look at businesses, you can acquire a business, you can close on a business, you can close on a house, you can close on you can enter into a lease agreement. These are all things that you can do under a tourist visa. You can hire employees under a tourist visa. You can do the things necessary to start building up your business that you're investing in the United States. What you cannot do, you cannot work for your company. You cannot receive a salary. You cannot be, you cannot physically work for the company. You can hire someone to work for the company, but you can't do it. So for example, we had a client once years ago that had invested into a gelato place in Brickell. And he was actually in the gelato place dishing out gelato when immigration showed up and saw him and asked him questions, and that became an issue. He could have been there watching to see somebody else do it and just been there for like an hour or two, not the full time, not from the moment it opens to it closes, but he could have watched somebody else do it. But the moment that he started actually dishing out the gelato, that's when he's running into a situation where he is now working for the company, which he is not legally authorized to do. Okay, but he could have been there for a couple of hours to manage and watch to make sure that somebody is dishing out the gelato the right way, so they're not giving too much or too little. Okay. So now, and so because you can't work there, you can't receive a salary. Now, if the company is paying a dividend, it could potentially pay you a dividend based on and the same thing is like if you're investing into stocks in the United States and you're a foreign national and the company pays you a dividend based on that, you've done nothing wrong. If your company is making money and has excess money as a profit and wants to pay off a dividend to you, you're not paying any taxes on it. I mean, you do have to declare it for taxes at some point, but you're not paying any taxes on it. You're not deducting anything from it. That is a possibility for the company to do. Before you would ever do that, you would definitely need to speak to not only your immigration attorney, but an accountant to verify that that's going to be something that would be appropriate for business purposes only. Okay, and you had another question, David. I'm sorry, I'm trying to.
Just to follow up on the same question, a lot of times these people come with families, their husbands, wives, and kids, and they try to put their kids in by getting a wrong advice from people into public schools. They sometimes they want to deliver a baby here, so they try to get a local government supported insurance programs. I want you to give us a black and white, clear picture on this, what they can and cannot do.
Okay. First of all, the whole having a baby in the United States, there's no, if they come into the United States to have a baby in the United States, you know, and if they allow them to enter the United States and they travel in before the baby's due and they have the baby in the US, that's not an issue one way or the other. It doesn't give them any right in the United States based on the fact that the child can't petition for the parent until they're 21 years of age. And that's going to take a long period of time for that to happen. So, so they can come into the United States when they're pregnant, have the baby in the United States, and it's not going to be an issue. The second part of that is putting children in school. That is a very tricky situation, considering the fact that parents want to have their kids in school for a variety of reasons. As a tourist, the children are not legally authorized to be in school. Now, will any school stop a child from being enrolled? No. The Supreme Court has made it very clear that if you're a child of a foreign national, the school has to accept you. The issue comes when you're applying for a visa or a change of status. If the children are in school when they're not supposed to be, an immigration officer could find that your intent to come in the United States was not for the temporary tourist visa, and they could deny any requests that you do in the future. So,
What about private schools?
Private schools gives the opportunity for the parents to apply for the children to get a student visa. Okay, you cannot do a student visa for a minor through a public school, but you can do a student visa for a minor through a private school. And this is something that we have done in the past for clients, and it's something that clients that are wealthy that may want to consider doing this. If they want to put their child in a private school, apply for the child to get a student visa or to change from a tourist to a student visa. The child's not technically allowed to go to school until that gets approved.
Mm-hmm.
The parent will be able to renew and extend their stay in tourist status while that child is in school, as long as the child is under 18 years of age. So you could actually, it is possible that you could bring a child when they're 6 years old, put them in private school, and for the next 12 years. It's possible. I'm not saying that I would ever recommend this. I'm just saying that it is possible. And the parent, one of the parents, not both, but one of the parents would be able to consistently extend their stay in tourist status for those 12 years. But, you know, we have done situations in the past. I had a client once who had 2 minor children. She was applying for the EB-5 visa to get residency through the EB-5 visa. She had one child that was like 3 years old. The other one was 6. The 6-year-old they put into a private school, and we continuously renewed her tourist status until the EB-5 was approved and she could move forward with the residency. And we actually got her residency through that. So it was a couple of years where and then the younger one also started private school, but the 6-year-old I think was probably like 9 years old when we finally were able to do the residency. And throughout that whole process, we kept her in tourist status to watch over her minor child who was in private school. Okay, did that answer your question, David?
Yeah, but just to summarize, I'm sorry I keep pushing it, but I want to get to the bottom of this. I was under impression that when tourists come to United States, they're not expected to use any government subsidized programs, whether it's educational or healthcare or transportation. these are the programs that generated based on the taxpayers and shall be used for the people who are paying taxes and permanently living here. The tourists should be able financially to support their tourism in the United States. So if they don't do that, if they start using government supported, government subsidized programs of any kind, they're kind of breaking the rules. Am I wrong? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, I mean, again, if you're here under a tourist visa and you put your child in school, okay, and they're here under tourist status and you put your child in school, it could potentially impact your ability to get any other type of visa in the future. This is, I mean, in public school. If you are in the United States and you are seeking, that's why you were asking about if you are in the United States and you seek Medicare or Medicaid, okay, and you're here under a tourist status, that is going to impact your ability to get a visa in the future. If you're asking me, I would not recommend anyone putting their child into school without them having some other sort of status outside of the tourist status. As for having the baby, again, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a baby in the United States, but you need to be responsible for the medical bills. You're not gonna have to pay for everything. Like if somebody is in Miami and they go to Jackson Medical, and because Jackson is Jackson's a government, does get money from the government to help people and things like that. I don't think that's going to be an issue because you're still going to have to pay some sort of medical bill towards that. So having a baby, I don't think that's going to be an issue. But if you're taking Medicare, Medicaid, if you're taking food stamps, if you put your child in public education without them having the right to go to school, like they're just under a tourist visa, you potentially running the risk of not being able to get another type of visa in the United States.
Understood. Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to know.
Okay. Oh, and then the last question was the waiver. Okay.
Yes.
I'm trying. You had like a multi-part question. It was like back to school. I only have one question with 24 parts. So
I tried to keep it simple for you, Chris.
So the waiver, there's different types of waivers, and it's going to depend upon what, why was somebody denied access to the United States? Okay. And basically, in any type of waiver, basically what you're looking at is, what did you do wrong? And that's going to be your negative factor. And how long have you done something wrong? And what are the positive factors of allowing you to come back in? And so there's different waivers for different situations. And I'm actually working with somebody right now to do a waiver because they were found to be working illegally in the United States. And I'm just gonna, if you give me 1 second to pull it up, because this is something that, like, I've already done the letter, but I don't know the information off the top of my head because most people don't do waivers like this. But this is for her to be able to come back to the United States to go back to school. And what they're looking for is, number one, what did you do that made you inadmissible? Why won't they let you back into the country? And then they're looking at what is the risk of harm to allow you to come back to the US? And the last thing to look at is, why are you coming back into the US? So for somebody who, who worked illegally in the United States, let's say, I mean, in this situation, it wasn't, she was working for a foreign company while she was in school, and the foreign company was paying her in her foreign country, and she was only doing it as a temporary basis. And she notified the school about it, and the school did some research into it and said that she wasn't authorized to work for that company. And she wasn't a full-time employee. She was just doing the project basics. Like, hey, can you do this for me? She would do it, take her a couple of hours. They would pay her based on an hourly basis. And she just accrued like credit with them. She only has a year left before she graduates. And with a master's program. So the whole basis that you're arguing is, listen, she didn't realize she was doing something wrong. She was working for a foreign company. She wasn't a direct employee. She was only here temporarily doing it. And it wasn't that she was guaranteed a set salary for a set period of time. It was only projects that she was doing that didn't impact her ability to finish her program and finish her school. She's still on track to graduate. Okay. Why does she have any risk? No, she's a young girl that has no risk of impacting or doing anything to anybody. And then when you're looking at the risk, you're looking at, are they a terrorist? Are they going to try to overthrow the government? Are they a criminal? Have they killed anybody? Could they kill somebody? You know, something like that. And then the last factor is, what is she coming back for? She's coming back to finish school. So you're just looking at those three things to determine, here's the positive, here's the negative. The positive outweighs the negative. Please give her the waiver. And that's what you would have to do in a situation like this. If you get denied entry into the US, depending on what you're getting denied entry for, this might be the type of waiver that you're seeking. Hey, we made a mistake. This is what we're showing for. Now, if it's a serious violation, then you're going to have to do more research. You're going to have to do more impact. You're going to have to discuss the fact that these are this is the situation. These are the factors in their home country. This is the ties to their home country. You know, and this is the reason why they're coming to the US. And depending on what type of visa they're trying to come in with, if they're trying to come in with an investor visa, you have more of a shot of getting them. And if you're trying to come back in with a tourist visa, because the investor visa, you're arguing that you're creating jobs, that you're building and helping the economy. With a tourist visa, you can't make that argument.
So what I understand, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just trying to see if I did understand the rules, and if you break the rules, could be possible not getting or becoming legal in the future, or getting changing the status, right? But if you do, there's some ways or arguments that you can help them to figure a way to still become legal. Is that my?
Yeah, I mean, again, each case is different, and you just have to get the factors about the particular situation with that particular person and figure out what happened, what was the basis for it, and what are the reasons why you should waive, you know, the bad thing that happened to them.
So there's exception to the rules at times. Is that?
There are exceptions to the rules at times.
Okay.
Now, you don't want to ever do anything that you knowingly is going to violate immigration laws.
Right.
But if you've done something that you know, that an officer has determined, hey, you violated immigration laws, there's still ways for you to get around that. But each case is different, and you just have to get the circumstances, get the facts for each particular case to determine the best way to move forward.
I have a curious question, Chris. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Nora.
Fantastic. When I was in Nicaragua, I have a worker in Nicaragua. He's amazing. He's a mason and a welder, but he's never been out of the country. So I would love for him to visit the United States, so he can see buildings, he can see, everything that, to me, I think it's the best, so he can see all the marvels about it. I got him a passport, a Nicaraguan passport. I went and I paid for a visa. I did the application myself, him coming in as a tourist, because I just wanted for him to visit. So then he gets the date of the interview at the US Embassy in Nicaragua, but he was denied the visa. But they don't give you an explanation as to why.
I could tell you
There went my money.
when you're applying,
I made a donation to the embassy.
they would have given a letter that probably said that he was 214B, which meant that basically 214B means two things. Number one, that he didn't qualify for the visa, or number two, they feel that he's going to try to permanently live in the United States. Okay. And most of the time it's the latter part, that they feel that they're going to permanently live in the United States. What I would say is, in this situation, whenever you're applying for a tourist visa, the officer is looking at several things. The first thing the officer is looking at is, do they think you're going to come back to your home country? So they want to know, what are your ties to your home country? What family do you have in your home country? What do you own in your own home country? Do you have a house? Do you rent a house? Do you own a house? Do you have a bank account in your home country? How much are you earning in your home country? Those are the factors that they're looking at to verify that you're going to come back to your home country.
But it's a third world country. So
that's where the second part, that's where the second part comes in. And that has to do with financial resources. Can you support yourself in the United States? Do you have the ability to support yourself in the US? And if they feel
this
as a
visiting as a tourist,
yeah,
if they feel that you do not have the financial ability to support yourself in the US, they will deny the tourist visa request.
Do you think it's better if I were to sponsor him to visit?
Well, what I would suggest, and what, in a situation like that, again, every situation and everything is different, and it just depends. You can have people, and we have done this in the past, where they have given documentation proving and showing that they're going to be living somewhere, they're going to be paying for the expenses, and that it's only going to be a short period of time. Okay. Now, the only thing is, they don't give a tourist visa for 1 month or 1 week or something like that. Most tourist visas, depending on the country, is given for 10 years. So in a situation, it's just a tricky situation. You just have to look at everything, and you just have to have, I've done tourist visas for people in the past. I've shown why they're eligible for it. And there are also times where I have a friend who's trying to bring, who I just filed a fiance visa for him. His first thing was, well, I heard from an immigration officer that it would be easier to do a tourist visa. And I asked him 3 questions. I said, okay, let me ask you a question. How much money does she have in her bank account? Okay. How does she own her own home? Does she have any children that she's going to be leaving behind? And the first answer was, she has a couple $100 in her bank account. No, she lives with her family's home. No, she doesn't have any minor children. I said, flat out right now, tell you, there is no way she'll get a tourist visa. None. There is nothing I can do to file to get her a tourist visa.
What about a religious visa? For in a case like that, like Nora's employee.
How would you do a religion?
No, I'm just asking, I don't know.
I mean, the religious visa is available. Like, you have to be coming to work in a religious field. You have to be coming to work for a church. You have to be coming to, and the thing is, it also is going to depend upon the country as well. Okay, you said you're, Nicaragua, they're gonna look at it with more suspicion. You know, I had a client whose uncle, he came to us after he'd already been denied 3 or 4 times, but his uncle was a Christian minister in India, and he had tried 3 times before they came to us to come to the US to go to a religious event as a tourist. And he proved everything. He proved that he had the ties to go back. And he even had what he wasn't able to prove was that he had the means to do it, you know. And even though the churches that were inviting him to come over to do a guest lecture and stuff like that, saying, we're going to put him up in the hotel, we're going to do all that other kind of stuff, they still denied it and said, you don't have the money. You just don't have the money to support yourself. We don't feel that you can support yourself in the US.
So then in a case like that, like she would like to bring him over, and she tried as a tourist. Obviously that religious is not going to work. Could she bring him with another kind of visa? Like, can she hire him here in the States? Like, what would she need to do?
She could do, well, you say that he's a welder, so he would technically be eligible for what is known as an H-2B visa, but doing one for just one specific person, I think would be a little bit difficult to overcome and to do. What I would suggest is, I mean, honestly, the best suggestion is to have him speak to me, see exactly what happened in their interview, look at what information he provided, and then see if there's any strategy, because just because he was denied doesn't mean he can't reapply. Okay, it just means that at that particular moment, they felt he didn't qualify. So you can reapply, you just have to have a basis and grounds to do it.
The one thing that he was happy that he said on that day, everyone got denied. So he didn't feel left out. He said everyone got denied. The only thing that's different now is that he has a baby. So, you know, like he has a girlfriend and a baby. So that would be reasons for him to go back to.
Well, first of all, when did he apply and get denied?
That was in 2018.
Okay, so there's 3 years that have been passed. So he could potentially apply again. He just needs to make sure and verify that, like, his issue is going to be the financial resources. The fact that he has the baby is a positive factor for showing that he's going to come back. I think that if you have an explanation to say, this is strictly the reason why I'm having him come here, I'm not having him work, I'm not having him do anything, I'm having him here just so that he can get ideas on how he can help better Nicaragua. You know, if you present a compelling argument and a compelling case, there is a possibility that he would be able to get the visa. Okay.
But there wasn't anywhere on the form that I think that you could justify more. Do you know what I mean?
No, you have to, it's going to be, no, it's going to have to be prepping him for it, making sure that there's like, you would have like, typically you don't go in with cover letters from attorneys explaining things like that, but there are situations where you need to have that. And this may be one of those situations.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
You're welcome. Okay, we got time for one more question and then we got to go. So does anybody have any final question? And if you do, make it a good one. No pressure on you guys or anything like that.
I have a question. I don't know if it's good or not.
Every question's good.
Okay, let's hypothetically say there is a guy who lived many years in the United States, one of the millions of documented immigrants, right? And this guy now has waiver and it has been approved, and he needs to go out of United States for the interview and come back here with whatever the status is, green card, hypothetically. How do you determine if this guy has decent chances to come back or not?
Well, you said he's already gotten the waiver, okay? So if they've
Yeah.
already gotten the waiver, the chances of him not getting the visa and coming back are extremely low. The only way that he, like, if you get the waiver and then you do something that's not on the waiver, or if you've gotten the waiver and you did not testify or provide all the information that was accurate, that would be a problem. So let's say that you've been here illegally, you get the waiver, they approve the waiver, they say you can go over. And from the time that you get the waiver to the time you go over, you commit a crime. That's going to be an issue. You know, they're not going to give you the visa now. Okay, because now let's say that you've committed a crime beforehand and you applied for the waiver and you didn't put the fact that you had committed this crime in the waiver or the request. That's also going to be an issue. But whatever you've requested the waiver for and it's been approved, they're, you know, if the circumstances have not changed, you were completely honest, you put down everything with respect to the waiver and the immigration has approved the waiver, it's almost, I mean, the chances of you not coming back in a short period of time are very, very minimal. Okay. It's just you have to make sure you explain and disclose everything in the waiver, and that you don't do anything from the time that you've gotten the waiver to the time that you get the visa that would impact your ability to get the visa.
Thank you very much.
All right. So again, thank you guys so much for all these questions and answers. I hope you guys have found this informative, and I hope that the audience has found this informative as well. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe. Please reach out. You can look out for more information from us at www.tntvisa.com. You'll learn more about immigration, more about who we are, and you can find our contact information there as well. You can also email us at any time at info@tntvisa.com, or you can send us texts through WhatsApp or Messenger at 754-610-7266. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.